Welcome aboard the Workplace Whiz, your audio gateway to the modern workplace. We designed this podcast as the place to discuss strategies, best practices, and share industry insights with expert guests. This program is brought to you by Yarooms, the workplace experience platform for hybrid work. I'm Cosmin Patlageanu, marketing professional and published author. Today we are discussing performance in hybrid work environments. And with me I have Cristina Hodea, HR professional with a solid background in tech companies. She is also a PhD candidate, studied sociology, and her career spans from recruitment to HR leadership. Welcome, Cristina.
Hi, Cosmin. Thank you for your invitation. Very nice to be here.
Good to have you here. So, one of the main topics I would like to cover today is poor hybrid work performance. And the underlying question is this more a location problem or a management problem? And to give you a little bit of context, we've discussed a lot about the pros and cons of remote work, hybrid work, or even fully on-site work. And somehow the office remains the core, the gathering place for social bonding even, for development and for culture building. While on the other hand, people see the flexibility of remote work as allowing for greater autonomy and well-being. But does it really? Because there is a Gallup analysis that finds that engagement has 3.8 times as much influence on employee stress as work location. And I believe there is a strong correlation between the stress that employees feel, and their performance. And in other words, what people experience in their everyday work, their feelings of involvement, enthusiasm, engagement, and so on, matters more in reducing that stress than the physical place where they are sitting. So regarding this debate, whether the success, to put it in a different perspective, now we're talking about the success of hybrid work, would it be a location related or management related? From where you stand, what's your perspective? Does the physical location, so the actual place where the employees work from, or the management style and the practices in place, which one has a more significant impact on performance?
Thanks for the question, Cosmin. Very, very interesting one. And performance is one of my areas of interest. And I was also thinking about this type of question before our meeting and in the past as well. So yeah, the last year changed a lot the way we are working, the way we are thinking and planning work. It is something totally new to manage people and performance in this new area of hybrid work. So just to be brief, I would say that first of all, the way you are doing management is impacting directly the performance. Of course, location might be important, but I would not say that the location is crucial, has a crucial impact on people's performance, because managers are responsible to set up objectives, to give clarity, to give direction to their people. So this is the main that this has the main importance while we are talking about performance. So if it is to rank somehow, I would say that the way you are doing management has the most significant impact on people's performance. Also, if it is to elaborate a bit, this period, these last 3 years, came with a lot of changes, also in the way we are doing performance, in the way that we are evaluating our people. We all know very well that there is that classical approach of having an annual performance review. Well, at least the last 3 years, are showing us that it is very important to be more flexible while we are talking about performance, meaning that either you need an intermediate process like a mid-year, and also in addition to this, you need maybe to shorten the objectives, to have like objectives for 3 to 6 months, and not that often longer objectives, because it will be very difficult to reach out to that to the respective objective. So I would say that switching from this classical approach to a to a more flexible one, it is also important. um, Also, it is very important the feedback that you need to give to the employees with regularity, I would say. And I'm not talking here only about the feedback related to the delivery, which for sure it is very important, but you also, as a manager, you also have the responsibility to sense the mood of the team, to sense the mood of each and every employee. So, I think that these 3 years put a lot of pressure, came with a lot of pressure also on managers, because they also need to change their mindset, yeah, from the classical approaches to the new ones, to the more maybe creative one. um, it was not easy. It was not an easy process, and still it is not easy, but it is a work in progress. And every organization needs to prepare better and better the managerial layers, just to because they are, in front of the employees, and the way that they are behaving, the way that they are managing processes and people, it is very important. It's creating, like, uh, the image uh, in front of the employees. So coming back to your question, I really think that the way that we are managing people, it is the most relevant in this performance context.
Thank you. Speaking of performance and the way managers evaluate it, so obviously things got a bit trickier now, right? Because they don't have that continuous contact with the teams, because they're working, in different settings. They probably see each other every once in a while. Maybe some of them are even working fully remotely. But in let's consider the hybrid work setting, right? As like the middle ground. Um, do you find it challenging for the managers to accommodate or to adjust to the new realities? And if so, where do they go to learn about new management ways? Because obviously nobody went to school and learned about how do you manage teams in a hybrid work setup, because there wasn't such a thing until now. And to make things even worse, some companies don't do that well in the wake of the pandemics. And traditionally, what companies do is first they cut marketing and HR budgets, right? Which obviously has a strong impact on the learning part of things, right? So managers should also be learning continuously, in my books at least. Um, so back to the question, where do they go to learn about how to manage things and how to adjust to the new realities and how to adjust the KPIs and so on?
Okay, so for sure, there is no, book or specific training that will help managers how to manage in this hybrid work. Of course, there are a set of rules of guidelines provided usually by the OD or the HR. But I really think that we are learning together in this period, uh, and we are creating together best practices that we are spreading after for other teams, sites or whatever. So Definitely it was, and I still that it's still they still have this challenge of managing in this hybrid work model, because um, it is nothing that, as you said, we are learning during the school. It is something very new. Something a need. It is a need that came very recently, and we are learning by doing. But for sure, a set of guidelines and rules, it is something very good to have. Um, I think that it is important to have um, like general guidelines, like what are the basic, needs, the basic, what is the basic setup of working while working remotely or in the hybrid model. um, and they have this challenge of managing teams while working in the hybrid model. What they are going to do while working remotely, and what they need to do while coming in the office. So I really think that this is also about prioritization. I really think that this is possible, for example, to have like activities that you are doing with your team while they are in the office for, I don't know, 1 day in the office, 2 days in the office. And I really think that there are activities that are um, um, that can be done at home, maybe individual activities, maybe self-learning. So I it is basically important to set up this common ground, and then after learning, after having experiences uh, with people, after having their feedback, um, things are going to be for sure improved, um, from the experience and having the best practices. But this is something that takes time for sure, and managers, they really need assistance and support from the HR, especially from the L&D teams, from the audit teams. So it's a common work that needs to be done there.
So thank you for that. Now the question is there a different way to measure performance while in the office versus when they're working remotely or in hybrid? Because I do imagine that for the micromanagers, this must be a nightmare, right? So not being able to constantly look over the shoulder of people and so on and so forth. But like for the regular managers, the normal people, right? Is it something that they need to do differently in this setup, in this context, as opposed to the traditional ways of measuring performance?
Um, so I really think that they need to do an effort and to connect more often to their people, to give more often feedback, because in the remote scenario, you don't have your team around you. You cannot see what are maybe the blocking points, and you need to find a way to see what you can do better in order to help the members of the team. So definitely they have the challenge of connecting with their team more often. They need to set up like regular meetings. They need to get in contact for, I don't know, if they are seeing, I don't know, a decrease of performance. It is something that they need to take action like immediately, because it's like it is different than what they are doing in the office. They need, I wouldn't go in controlling in this area of controlling them by calls over and over, meetings, but they need to be more careful if and see if there is something in their performance that has changed and there is no sense behind. And this is why I think it is good to connect like immediately with the employee and see what's happening there. Maybe it is something correlated with a personal context, or it's a misunderstanding of a task. This is also possible because when they are not all in the office, the it might be an asymmetry in receiving the same information, and maybe we have this case and the performance is going down because of the misunderstanding. um, Also, it might be something correlated with the motivation. Maybe not meeting the colleagues in the office, not meeting the direct manager, is impacting also this area of motivation. But it is less likely to have this happening, because in general, when people are working from home, they try to do their best, they try to focus on their tasks, and also to take care of some personal duties, for example bringing kids from school or things like this. I really think that most of the people are focusing in performing as expected while working from home. But in any case, I think that when the performance is going down, the manager should be very careful, and uh, he or she needs to find the immediate reason, because might be the context, might be the misunderstanding of the task. We need to understand what's happening behind.
We need to dig for the details. So for the younger managers, right, which aren't that used to picking up any faint signs, what would be the early warnings that should trigger a reaction? What should they be looking for? So in order not to get that far as people or the team members get disengaged or unresponsive and so on, what would be like the early triggers that they should be very, very mindful of?
Okay, we are talking about the hybrid model, right? Okay, so in this hybrid model, I really think that we should look at the proactivity. I really think that we should look also to the way that they are responding to managers' messages or teams' activities. Also, an indicator might be also the fact that the adherence to this hybrid model. If, for example, the majority of the team is coming in the office 2 or 3 days per week, and a person from the team it's not coming at all in the office, this can also be an indicator of the disengagement. So there are like small things that can be like red flags for a young manager. So every time, I would say that every time a young manager will see a low proactivity or zero proactivity, zero involvement, zero initiative, and eventually someone that is not coming at all in the office, at least, I don't know, one per month to meet the team, it is a sign, of course.
So speaking of returning to the office 2 or 3 times a week or once a month or whatever, are you more team remote or more team on site?
I like to have also always a balance between the two. if it is to look to my example, I'm going in the office like 4 days per week. But it is different, totally different my case, because I'm part of the HR department. I'm going in the office. I have a lot of meetings in person, and I also have group activities. So it is a totally different context for me. But if it is to look to our teams, for example, I really think that we should keep the balance, meaning that, okay, we have this hybrid model. It is important to come in the office, but it is also important to balance with the remote work. It is important to understand business need and also to correlate with what's the most effective also for our employees, because this hybrid model, as we know very well also from the studies, is showing us that the most engaged employees are the ones that are working either in the hybrid mode or in the fully remote mode. So there is also the practice in the market. If it is to look in the Romanian market, of course, in the technology companies, for example, the majority of the companies have this hybrid model implemented. Of course, it depends on each organization, because part of them have like an anchor day per month or per week, and the rest of the time employees are working fully remote. But it's depending. The most important is to keep a balance and to understand also the business need and the employees need. We really need to be careful with this, because I really think that employees are not replaceable. We need to be also people oriented and understand that they really need this comfort of working from home or remotely from another place, comfortable for them, will increase the well-being in general. So we need to keep a balance between the working in the office and the working remotely.
Absolutely.
I'm not a fan of the extremes.
Yeah, me neither. Although, sometimes I enjoy more working remotely, but sometimes, I just want to meet the team and, hang around. And I was thinking, actually, when you were discussing about, when companies opted for, 2 or 3 times a week, or you said you're going even back 4 times a week, which obviously it's a special case considering tech companies these days. But, the way I imagine companies just prior to people getting back is like an old building which hasn't been lived in for like a couple of years. And the first one to, turn on the lights or the water should expect something to leak somewhere, or, the fuses to blow or something like that. So is there a drop in performance we should expect when going from fully remote, let's say, to 2 or 3 days per week, sort of a hybrid situation? Is it something that normally happens? So once you pull people from their new normal, let's say, and you drag them to the office for different reasons, we won't go into those right now, but I'm just curious that if this happens, we should be expecting something to go up and down, or down and up, in terms of performance. Is this something that you've encountered?
So it is possible to have this situation of asking people to come back in the office and to work, I don't know, like 4 or 5 days per week from the office. It is possible to have a major impact in their performance, but not only in their performance, also in their overall engagement, because basically you are take them out from let's say, a comfort zone, and you are asking them to switch to a model that was a suitable one years ago. There will be employees that will leave the company. There will be employees that will stay, but with low engagement rate. So as a company, you really need to see the risk behind this type of decision. So there are studies, for example, in the US, and I think that there are Gallup studies that are saying the following: that employees from the US, if it is to ask them to come back and work from the office, fully from the office, an important part of them, more than 60%, will leave the company. So I think that in Romania, in this current context, the risks might be even higher. At least the technology market, it's a very competitive one, and they really have opportunities. So it will be a huge risk to ask them to come back in the office without even giving them the reason why come back and work from the office. So I think that the companies should be, and the managers and the leadership in general should be aware about the risks and decide before taking the decision if it is a good decision for the business or not. Not to mention the fact that this will affect also the company's reputation and the pool of new hires.
Candidates.
Because the candidates, of course. So it's a tricky situation, and risk management should be done in this case.
Absolutely. To some extent, I think this is basically a trust issue, right? So if I trusted you to join my team, right? So if I hired you initially, I mean, I will have no issue with you working from anywhere in the world, right? So because I trust you to do the job, as long as it doesn't mean that you have to be daily, you're not working in production facilities or something like that. So you physically need to be there. We are talking about white collar jobs, essentially. So basically the ones that by design can allow for a hybrid work setting. So another question is, when companies decide to bring people back, do you think there is a lack of trust somewhere? Obviously, there are other considerations in terms of cost efficiency. I have this whole building, I need to do something with it, I need to fill it with people. Also, you being, an HR professional, you know a lot about the culture of a company. And obviously, since people don't touch base that often, there might be a question there regarding their connection or their bonding to the company's culture, right? So people might think that it's diminishing, or it's not that strong anymore. Or maybe they say, yeah, but you have all the facilities there and the opportunities. Or some of them could go all the way and say, there will be consequences. So you mentioned risks, but some companies said, I'm going to tie your performance review with your physical attendance. So if you're going to the office, then you're scoring high points. If you're not, then when the time comes for your performance review, then we're going to chop some off your record list. So now, getting back to the question, is it somewhere a lack of trust? And to add even more to the context, because you mentioned technology companies, I know some complain that their team members or their employees are not that engaged anymore, and they suspect that they are doing other jobs as well, right? So that they're having multiple full-time jobs at the same time, which in some places it's even illegal, but we won't go into the legal considerations. The question is it something that you've encountered as a situation? Is it something that people need to be mindful of, or should be more like a trust or relationship based on trust, and you should trust people to do their stuff?
Very good question. So what can I say? You trust people until the moment they fail, you know, and your trust, it's somehow destroyed. They so it is a sensitive discussion here, because indeed I've heard many managers talking about employees that are demotivated, and they are suspecting the fact that they have multiple jobs, multiple collaborations. It is a it I really think that it is a small reality. In general, employees have fidelity for the employer, and they are focusing on one single job. But yeah, there are a few maybe that have, you know, multiple jobs, multiple collaborations, and while doing the main role, let's say, they are performing also the others. You cannot control this. Indeed, there are managers that are thinking that, okay, I'm going to take this decision, and I'm going to ask them to come in the office. But I don't think that like this they will solve the situation, because okay, they eventually will leave the company. You are going to struggle to find replacement, and you know, this will bring you additional costs. So it's time, it's the cost in itself for recruiting, is the cost for onboarding new employees. Yeah, very sensitive. So yes, coming back to your question, I really think that managers or employees or companies that are asking employees to come back in the office might have a trust issue, or they are seeing a lower performance than usual, lower engagement, and lower adherence to the company's culture in general. It's their decision, basically. From my perspective, I think that we really need to be careful if we decide to ask people to come back in the office, because okay, you have some 2-3 cases, suspicious cases. Does it really make sense to affect the other's engagement by taking this decision only for a limited number of the employees that you are suspecting the fact that they have multiple collaborations? It's still a question.
Absolutely.
There is
And that would... Yeah, please go ahead.
So I don't think that we can find like the perfect answer to this. It's still a sensitive topic, and I would like to mention another point. For example, you know that in Romania, during the last years, the collaborations via PFA or freelancing in general increased. So from this perspective, it is, if you have, for example, a team of contractors, they are working under different, law regulations. So basically, how can you ask them to come in the office, because they are not obliged to come in the office? So it depends. If we are talking about employees hired, about regular employees, okay, does it really make sense to ask to the entire team to come back in the office for, I don't know, 2-3 cases? It is a difficult decision, for sure.
Absolutely. And on the other hand, I mean, why should you care eventually? If, let's say, for real, somebody on your team has 2 jobs. So they got a full-time job with you and they have a full-time job with me, right? But they do deliver. I mean, their performance is not affected. I mean... Why should we even
Yeah,
care,
this is
right?
what totally agree. And this is why I'm saying to my managers when they are raising this type of topics. And yeah, why do you really care? They are meeting expectations, so what's the problem? um we can deep dive and go into details about fidelity, about the fact that they are not that proactive. They don't often come with outstanding solutions, with innovative solutions, because we are all searching for innovative solutions. So this spread of energies in many places, it's blocking them a bit from being very creative or outstanding in the main role, in the main position. Yeah, so I think that when managers are asking for employees to come in the office, are also thinking about this. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can probably do it for only so long, right? Because the amount of energy you need to put into performing, I'm not saying over performers, like super achievers. I'm saying like, okay, you have to do this job, and this is your these are your performance objectives. This is what I'm going to measure you against, and then you just go and do that. No extra mile whatsoever. But even so, I mean, the amount of energy that you need to put into delivering is gonna be depleted real soon, right? Because we all know one job can be too much at times, but
yeah,
having two, I mean, probably when you're in your 20s and you have a lot of energy and you want to do a lot of things, then you can get like a second job, which is like but a part-time sort of gig, or maybe some projects here and there. But having this constantly, I mean, I would like to speak to somebody who does this on a regular basis and manages to perform for more than a year, maybe, or even more. Because I think it's an interesting. We could have some interesting insights out of that. Otherwise, I think it's tricky and could be really detrimental to people's health. But to each his own. I mean, if they can do it, they should do it.
I
But regarding the, yeah, please.
I wanted to say that I really know someone that is working in the IT industry and is performing two roles in parallels in different companies, of course. And I I was asking this friend of mine, why are you doing this? And the answer was related to the financial part. And you can imagine that he is not earning a very low salary. So you see, I really think that this consume society is pushing somehow, and in some cases people, to do like extra efforts in order to gain more and more. So it is also this, I don't know, social pressure somehow to have money, to gain, I don't know, a huge amount per month. But where are you as an individual? What is your satisfaction? um, I understand the motivation in the end, but where is your satisfaction? You are doing this only for money. It's on the one hand, I can understand, but I really think that we need to enjoy what we are doing, to add a bit of passion in our day-to-day activity, because this will also somehow recharge us. So not only the huge income that will come at the end of the month, it's important, but also the personal satisfaction. But the drivers for personal satisfaction can be different from a person to another. So we are not here to blame anyone. I totally understand different perspectives, but I really think that they should care more about themselves and to find the purpose in everything that they are doing in their professional life.
Fantastic insights. Yeah. So obviously the considerations are diverse. For people who go the extra mile, for the ones that decide to put a lot of effort and actually at the end of the month they are left with very very little time for anything else rather than working. But maybe they do that for a while and then it's like a cyclical thingy. But also the motivation behind asking people to get back to the office is diverse, right? So one thing that I always enjoyed, was having coffee with my team and also with some other friends in the company, not necessarily people on my team. And was also a very good opportunity, to catch up with whatever is happening company wide, and not only in my company but in other companies, because normally you are in a like business campus and there are multiple companies, and you get in touch, and basically it's the water cooler, right? So you go past it,
Yeah.
go get some water, I meet you, hey, how's it going, that sort of conversation. How do we actually replace those in the way that we work now? Because when we are in the office, then definitely that happens, right? But how about in the days when we are not? I mean, how do you substitute those rituals, those social interactions that you have occurring normally or naturally while we get together when we are not together? Is there a way to use maybe technology to facilitate that sort of interaction?
So in this case we need to be creative. Of course we can use technology to substitute this, but not 100%. Nothing can replace the in-person interaction. So definitely you can have like meetings starting with an icebreaker, a very nice one, just to enable people to express their opinions and to be very active during that meeting. If, for example, the hybrid model suppose a meeting in the office, let's say one per month, then it is important to have the interactions more often via Teams or Zoom or other channel. And managers should find ways of meeting people and enabling them to get in touch, also online. So they also can have like informal meetings. I don't know, like it's Friday, 5 p.m. We can schedule a meeting of 20 minutes just to drink maybe a glass of wine together and to talk about what we are going to do during the weekend. So we can find definitely activities that will help the team bonding, but this will not replace, like the in-person connection. Maybe this is why I think it is very important to encourage people while coming in the office in, I don't know, 1 or 2 days per week or per month. It is important to prioritize the in-person connection and collaboration and meetings, just to get in touch with each other, just to remind also to them the company's culture, why it is good to have also this personal, this face-to-face connection, because indeed this is the low light of this model of working. It is not that important. We can find a substitute, but still nothing can replace this face-to-face or in-person connection.
Absolutely. So one of the considerations, I was doing a little bit of research prior to our conversation, and I see more and more chatter on the mental health or the mental well-being of employees. And this is something that was tragically taboo prior to the pandemic. So I hardly ever heard about somebody saying, I'm not feeling that well, but I think there is a situation. I'm going to give you like a very specific example. So exactly when the pandemic hit and everybody went under the curfew and everything, there was a colleague of mine, and she used to work abroad, but she was here for a couple of weeks and she couldn't get back. Right, so her fiance was there, but she was stuck here for, I think, maybe half a year or so, and she was completely alone. Right, so obviously you can't stop but think something must have been going on there. I mean, all of a sudden you're just pulled up from your normal environment or your normal setting, and you're thrown into a different reality with different rules. You are cut off from a lot of your normal connections. And to give you even this more extreme example, where she was actually separated from her fiance, right? So you're thinking this must have consequences, right? So do you think this is something that we should, I'm generally talking about managers, but kind of everybody should be mindful of? And speaking of those early warnings we were discussing earlier, is it something that we should always be on the lookout for?
Especially after this pandemic period, we realized that we have an increase in the cases of anxiety and even worse. So definitely for people that spend a lot of time alone, working alone during the pandemic period, we are starting to see now, the side effects, and this is an important reason why we really need to prioritize mental health programs in our companies. Going back, I don't know, 3 years ago, 4 years, 5 years ago, companies and we all were focused to find, the best medical provider. But after this pandemic period, we are focused also about developing mental health programs that eventually will help employees to go over anxiety periods, to help them in the relation with the others, with colleagues, with peers, with managers, and eventually this type of programs will help them somehow to reintegrate in the new way of working. So I really think that we need to implement programs of mental health in every company. It is very important, and I was talking with friends, sociologists, psychologists, and they all told me that they are seeing an increase in the mental disorder areas after these 2-3 years of pandemic. So now as employers, we are facing also this challenge, and it is very important to have the right tools and to help colleagues while they are crossing this difficult period. And we can do this by identifying their mood, their potential issues, and to guide them to go and to use these mental health programs. It is not something easy to be done, but going back to the motivation area and to the disengagement, of course, an anxiety or another type of disorder can also impact a lot, both the motivation and the engagement. But it is difficult to identify the issue, because not all the employees are eager to share with the managers, even with HR, this very sensitive aspect of their lives. So it is helpful to be there with them and to try to understand as much as we can their context, and also to make a good awareness as a company to the mental health programs. Definitely they are very, very important tools that will help the employees, and of course engagement and all of this. But first of all, the aim of these programs is to help our colleagues.
Absolutely. So I was thinking, maybe to some extent, hybrid work can be a vehicle or can be a proper setting for actually getting to a point where the employee's well-being is even better or is more important. And I'll give you an example. So if we were only working remotely and we see each other 1 hour per day, let's say, you can put a mask on and pretend that everything is all right, and I can't actually see it, right, unless I'm a super trained professional to detect if something is wrong. But if we can, if we interact, once to 3 times a week, online, and then we get together in the office, maybe some signs would be more obvious, and then I will know something is going on, and I can point you in the right direction, right? So maybe you are unwell. Well, there is an anxiety there you don't know how to deal with, and luckily there are professionals that can help you with that. So nowadays it's not as it used to be, right? So if 20 years
Right.
you would have said, I think I'm on the verge of a breakdown, because it's probably too much pressure. So people will say, are you nuts? Come on, this is the job, you got to do it. Pull yourself up and, off you go. But now this is actually, we understood, and I think pretty much everyone has understood that this is serious and has serious consequences. So in the end, you need to be mindful of, how people feel. So this is actually why, I was just going around the bush with the question on hybrid workers, maybe the middle ground, right? Because you always need to take into account what people want as well. And as you very well mentioned, before doing any sudden changes, you gotta get in touch with them and gauge, is it something that they want to do, or to what extent do they want to do it, right? Because otherwise you're risking going to the other extreme, where all of a sudden you have like 30% less people working for you, right? So that can be the case. So getting back to the question is, do you think maybe hybrid work can be a way to actually mitigate to some extent these potential issues?
Yes, I really think that the hybrid work can help in increasing employees' well-being, and also for the ones with cases of anxiety, can help them, to rebalance and to recover, even faster than in a different working mode, when they need to come in the office 5 days per week. So I really trust this hybrid model from this perspective. I really think that employees are benefiting of an increased well-being due to this model. But still, we really need to be careful with our colleagues and to see potential signs of anxiety, and to try to deep dive and see how you can help in this case. So yeah, coming back to your question, I really think that it's the best model for increasing employees' well-being and help, and the most suitable model that helps employees, to be better with themselves in case of some mental health struggles.
That's actually pretty close to the way I see things now. It's probably, I don't think it's ideal, right? I don't think it's like the best in the universe, but I think it's the best one we can have right now. And given the circumstances and the way the market looks like at this particular point in time, I think it's the best solution moving further or forward until we discover something better, right?
Definitely. So think about 10 years ago, we knew about remote working from the movies, and we were totally surprised to find out that this even exists, somewhere in this world. So for sure, it is not the best model of all the times, but it is the optimal one now in this current context. And I really think that will stay like this for the upcoming years. Of course, we will see, depending on how the AI will evolve, depending on, in Romania at least, depending on how it will be the dynamic for switching from labor contract to freelance collaboration. So yeah, there are many factors to be taken into consideration. But for now, I would say that at least for some areas, as IT or technology companies, this is the most suitable model to take into consideration. Of course, there are many other areas that cannot use this type of model. We cannot imagine to go to a doctor for an investigation and to do this, online. So it is difficult. And then we have the public field, the public sector, where it is a bit difficult to implement this type of hybrid work. But for the technology companies, it's, for the moment at least, is the best to have.
Absolutely. And on that positive note, thank you very much for being with us today. And I hope to catch up soon, because I have some questions that we didn't go through, and they're all connected to the AI part, which you briefly mentioned now at the end. And also, I would like to dive deeper in some of the other topics really soon.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
again
a lot
for being with us.
Thanks a lot, Cosmin. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.